All right, guys, as with all good things, they always have to come to an end. And well done for getting to this part of the tutorial. You've built so many cool things. You've learned so many new concepts. And this is by no means easy stuff. App development is hard. And a lot of the concepts that we're trying to teach you are taught over 6 months in an undergrad computer science degree. And we're trying to condense it into as short a period as possible by using project-based methods. So now begs the question, where next? The important thing is don't forget. So we've taught you a lot of things, and in order to really put it into practice, you have to experiment and test out your own ideas. So make your own app and start off with something really simple. Don't try and make an app that's Facebook merged with Twitter, merged with Instagram. That's really not going to end up well. Instead, try to build a minimum viable product. So have something super simple and then build on top of it in order to make it more and more complex and more interesting. Don't start off with something that's just like a wheel and then you have two wheels and by this point you've already abandoned the project. That'll be really sad. So try and build a skateboard instead. So plan out your app, avoid complexity, and to do that, make sure that you prototype your app and set out all the screens, all the layouts, how it's going to work. And we've introduced you to some tools in the app design modules, including Pop and Marvel, as well as Sketch. So have a look over there for some inspiration and learn a bit more if you haven't already about how to create user flow diagrams, create wireframes, make mockups and prototypes, etc. So that's a really essential step, and it's really important that you don't skip it. So code-wise, you should always aim to stand on the shoulders of giants. What do I mean by that? Use open source code libraries. There are so many great ones out there, and we've introduced you to some of them in some of our app projects. For example, we used SV Progress HUD to have a loading spinner in Flash Chat, and in Klima, we used libraries such as Almofire to network, also SwiftlyJSON to make working with JSONs a little bit easier, etc. And it's really easy to just go into Google and search for top 5 iOS libraries or best iOS libraries, and you'll come up with a whole load of lists that you can read through and window shop and keep a note of some of those that you might want to use in a future project. Now, there is a weekly newsletter compiled by some really great guys, and they include some of the new open source libraries that they've discovered, and it can be quite a good way of keeping on top of what's happening in the iOS world, as well as keeping a tab on the new libraries that people are developing. So the other thing to mention is have a look at some of these app services when you're trying to implement your apps. Don't try to build everything by yourself. Instead, try to leverage services that other people have already built and that can make your life so much easier, not to mention cut down maybe 3 or 4 months of development. So we've already looked at Firebase for implementing a real-time cloud-based database, but Firebase has a lot of other features too. For example, they have notifications, they now have server-side implemented code, and they have a whole load of things. Just go and check it out. The other thing to implement, and it's something that I have in most of my projects, is an SDK called Crashlytics. And this is something that shows you when your app is deployed out there on the App Store, how many crashes you're getting, under what conditions, for example, which operating systems, which devices is your app crashing on, so that you can identify bugs and treat and cure them. Now, Mapbox deserves a special mention because they are a really easy way of implementing maps or map-based features in your app. They also have offline mapping abilities and a whole bunch of beautiful map layouts. So check out Mapbox. And finally, Cinch is a service that provides APIs to help you implement voice messaging and sending SMS in your app, etc. So it's really cool as well. Check out all 4 of these, and if you're signed up to the newsletter, we tend to tell you guys about new discoveries and cool new app services too. So keep an eye out for that. Now, finally, we want to talk about how to help yourself during development, because in your journey of becoming proficient as an iOS developer, you've learned to use iOS documentation, you've learned to implement some of the features that are available in the iOS framework, but of course we can't cover everything. So for example, we haven't covered how to use the camera or how to play videos or a whole bunch of other cool things that the iOS SDK is capable of. So how do you help yourself when you need to use a feature that we've not taught you? Well, the iOS documentation is your first port of call. And in there, in the API reference and in their documentation, there's a whole load of explanations about how to do everything that you can possibly want with iOS. And as you go from, intermediate to advanced iOS developer, you're going to be more reliant on the documentation that Apple provides in order to learn how to do some of the things that we haven't taught you. Now, the other thing is have a look at GitHub, because GitHub is really going to become your best friend. There's a whole load of projects that people have uploaded on there, and all of which are open source. So you can check out to see how do other people write their code, or what is the best way of structuring my project. And there's projects on there that are written by people at Apple, for example. So, really that should be the gold standard of how you should be using Swift and how you should be writing iOS projects. But also there's projects on there from normal developers which you can learn from. And for example, there's a link below the video which links to a Flappy Swift repository, and it has all the code that's required to build yourself Flappy Bird using Swift. And you can read these code files to learn more about various aspects of programming as well as iOS development. And you can also find some really cool libraries that you might want to incorporate into some of your future apps. So for example, there's this really, really cool UI component from the guys at Yolantis. It has this beautiful way of dismissing and fracturing the screen into 1,000 pieces, and I just think it's absolutely amazing. And you could implement all of that with just a few lines of code by incorporating that library. So check out some of these cool libraries. Check out cocoapods.org for more awesome pods. And in fact, one of my favorite activities is just browsing through all the new CocoaPods that are available, because sometimes you really find some new gems. And there have certainly been cases where I've built an app just purely because I found this really nice pod that I want to implement. So check it out. And what if you get stuck, or what if you get a bug, or what if you get a problem while you're building your own project? Well, you're going to become very familiar with a website called Stack Overflow. And it's well known and well established that when Stack Overflow is down, then the world over, developers basically just stop doing their jobs because it's impossible to know everything. And that's why we have these websites for knowledge exchange. So I've mentioned Stack Overflow before in the Xylophone tutorial, and it's just a great place where you can ask questions. I got this error, this is the error code, this is what happened, and your question might get upvoted if a lot of other people have the same problems. And then experts and other developers come along and answer your queries, usually providing code snippets to help you out and give you a solution to some of your woes. So check out Stack Overflow if you haven't already, because it is going to be so important in your life. All right, so almost ready. It's time to test your app. So before releasing your app out there into the world where all criticism is invited, you want to make sure that there's no bugs and there's no obvious things wrong with your app. So make sure that you test it. Ask every single one of your friends, all of your family, to download it and try it out and give you feedback. Tell you if something's not working, if something's crashing, or if they have anything that they can suggest to improve upon. And this is going to be essential in avoiding one-star reviews on the App Store and getting a lot of hatred generally. People are not very tolerant on the App Store. So make sure that your app is perfect before you put it out there into the world. Now, what can you do if you have no friends? Well, there is a website called Uber Testers, and here you can pay to get professionals to test out your app and give you feedback on it. So check that out as well. Now, finally, of course, it's time to publish your app. And in the last module, we spoke about how you can publish using iTunes Connect and the various nuances in terms of publishing your app. And you should keep in mind a quote by Reid Hoffman, who was the founder of LinkedIn. And he said that if your first version isn't embarrassing, then you've shipped too late. So as soon as you've got your core features down and your app is working and bug-free, then put it out there. Let people try it out. Let people suggest what the next features should be and see generally how much interest there is in your idea or in your app, because it's very easy to get stuck in our own heads thinking that, oh, I need all of these 200 features before I can release it out there. And that's just not going to help you in the long run, because you might have spent 2 years and it might be completely perfect for you, and you launch it and it lands with a thud. Nobody wants it. Nobody's interested in those features. So always let your users dictate the direction of your apps. And if you are like some of our past students and you've successfully built your own apps and uploaded them to the App Store, then please let us know, because we want to tell the world about your app and we will help you spread the word. So this is an app by a former student of ours called Myla, and she built an app that allows her to speak to her diary instead of typing in it. So the app is called Next Speech, and it turns your voice diary into a written entry. And another really cool project by a former student of ours is called Earlier. And this is for those people who are bad, who are not morning people. So Ross wanted to wake up earlier in the day, like around 6 o'clock, but just setting the alarm at 6 o'clock was pretty painful. So he built this app that wakes you up 1 minute earlier every day until your target time. So that's also really cool. So if you've built your own projects, do let us know and we'll include you in the newsletters. We'll tell all our students and we'll try and get you onto Product Hunt as well. So let us know once you've succeeded. And we do more than just app development. We have a huge, lively community, and we do a lot of events based in London. So, for example, we had the Firebase team come down to our offices to teach our students about using Firebase and what are all of its great features. And we also took some of our students to the Twitter headquarters to learn about Twitter APIs and implementing those as well. So stay in touch, check us out on Meetup if you're around in London, and of course tweet at us or give us a shout on Facebook or Slack. But we're here for you every step of the way, and I sincerely wish you all of the best luck. So thank you so much. That's all from me, Angela at the London Appbury, and I hope I'll get to meet you in person at some point. If you're ever around in London, don't hesitate to pop into our offices and give us a shout. So thank you so much, everybody, and see you soon.